In total, I've made about 5 million Robux from various different methods, and today I'm going to show you exactly how I did that and what you can learn from me so you can do the same even faster than I did. I'm also going to mention my mistakes so you can skip them, so I suggest paying close attention to my journey and how you can learn from it. Also, I've always had my YouTube channel, although it was much smaller back then, so you'll notice that this helped me a lot, and I use my channel to my advantage, which I would suggest you do if you have any obvious skills or things you enjoy. Try to integrate it to make money and Robux from it. So the story starts with the sale period on Roblox, when Roblox used to actually release limiteds all the time. My first big hit was sales streams, so I would combine YouTube with sales. And Roblox used to have 4 to 5 major sales per year where they would release limiteds and bring back old items for a limited time. It would get a ton of people interested in it to either make profit or just to get cool items, so I started streaming these sales around 2018, and then I had the idea to make a hangout game for people to play during the sales, which would include the upcoming and leaked items, obbies, and other activities. These would actually get quite popular, with peak times having around 100 to 200 players. Now the key was I would monetize it heavily, and I didn't really have any idea what I was doing at this time, but I did have a basic sense of how to make Robux, which was to sell game passes and get donations. And that's exactly what I did. So I sold some game passes for exclusive areas and exclusive items, and then I had a big donation board in the front which would attract people to beat each other at being number one. This concept works really well, by the way, as you'll see later in this video, and it got me some pretty big donations, adding up to around 20k to 30k Robux, and game passes made another 10 to 20k, so I ended up making about 50k Robux in one weekend during these sales. Not to mention the profit from buying and selling limiteds during the actual sale. And 50k was worth a lot more back then than it is today. The key thing to take away from that is that you can really find opportunities everywhere. I just happened to be making videos about these sales, and I realized that I could be making a game for it and then monetize it heavily, and it ended up working really well. I think I did pretty well with this idea back then, but if I could do it again, I'd probably spend more times finding ways to monetize it and then get more players. There were definitely avenues I could have explored in the sale niche at the time, but I just didn't think of them at the time. Over the next few years, I focused mostly on my channel, making videos and growing on it. So I'm going to skip a few years of the boring grind, which everyone just has to do, to the point where I reach 100,000 subscribers in April of 2021. So a pretty big progression, and you can actually go through my channel and just kind of see, I just posted a ton of videos from that time period. So I had 100k now, and this was key because having a huge audience makes monetizing anything much easier. And my next great idea definitely wouldn't have been possible, or at least as large, if I didn't have my YouTube channel. Around March of that year, I started seeing this small trend called AFK games. I saw a few friends playing them and I thought it was interesting, so I decided to join one and see it. And I was amazed. The concept sounded super dumb, but it somehow actually worked. Basically, you would just have a game with a small map and then a donation board, and people would donate and keep competing to be number one. I thought the idea was crazy, but I decided to try it anyways, just in case I could somehow make some Robux from it. So I make my own AFK game with a giant treehouse, an obby, and of course the donation board. And it was very basic, and it started off pretty slow, but I was lucky to have some rich friends. So I got a few donations totaling a few thousand Robux, and I was already surprised because I honestly didn't even think it would work. This continued for a while, and the game kept getting small donations here and there, so I thought to myself that I should take it to the next level and stream it on my channel. This was also the perfect timing because my channel was taking off at this time, so I was easily able to have hundreds of viewers at any time. When I streamed the AFK game, it just immediately took off and it got very popular. The game started to get around 100 to 200 players, and with that, donations just started rolling in. The top donation would go from 5k to 10k to 20k and so on, and it wouldn't stop. This pattern would just continue. I would stream the game, just play random mini games and mess around with my fans, not even really talking about the donations much, and they would still continue to come in and people would compete with each other to be number one. The top donation eventually reached huge levels, around 50,000 to 100,000 Robux. Keep in mind, this was just one donation. The streams kept being popular, the trend started taking off even more, and I would see everyone making one or making a video about it, or some new drama on Twitter rising about my game. Eventually, all of this attracted Flamingo, and he made a video about my game that gave me an extra boost, with the game peaking at around 400 to 500 players at a time, which was huge for me. This led to the top donation eventually being 500,000 Robux from one person, and in total I made around 3 million Robux in around 1 week from this game. It definitely got a lot of hate, which I can understand since the concept is so dumb, but it somehow worked. And a lot of people were mad about how easy I was able to get these huge donations by just standing AFK in a game. But I will say say that my years of work building my channel is really what made this opportunity even possible in the first place. So my next idea was to make an island game, and this was during the summer of the same year, so my YouTube channel was still doing pretty well and I had over 100,000 subscribers. So I make this huge hangout game with like 4 islands and a beautiful map, and it would feature all the trendy features like emotes and music and a leveling system. I even added a shop system where you could buy items in the game with in-game money that you could buy for Robux, and also game passes to get exclusive items and areas. The game was monetized pretty well, and of course I had to include a donation board also just to help. So after a few months of development, I eventually released the game on a live stream, and it got up to around 600 plus players on the launch day. Instantly, I started getting donations, Game Pass sales, and the launch wasn't perfect. Like, there was a ton of bugs. This was my first official game release, but it still did pretty well for the first few days. We got a lot of Game Pass sales and donations, and they started adding up quickly, but the problem was that the game was slowly starting to lose hype and slowly die. The player count would go from averaging 100 people to a week later averaging only 40 people, and it would just continue to go lower and lower. Looking back, this was my first game release, so I definitely made a ton of development mistakes and should have been more quicker with updates, but I don't think it was too bad for a first release. If you're curious, the game made a little over 1 million Robux, which was a bit of profit over the game development costs, and I was happy with that, but I could have taken it a bit further if I did some things differently. You probably noticed that YouTube helped me a lot through all these ideas, and without my audience, I probably wouldn't have been able to make Robux as easily. This is why I recommend playing to your strengths and using whatever skills or passions you already have and then building off it. I literally just started making videos for fun, and eventually I was able to monetize it and make over 5 million Robux in games, not even mentioning the real money from YouTube ads and sponsors. I hope this inspires you to start or keep going on your Robux journey and show you how it's possible. I went from being a nobody watching videos just like you to making it happen, so I hope that shows anyone can do it. Watch this video next. YouTube thinks you'll like it.